on vessels to date. The escalation began with a U.S. strike on a Venezuelan boat on September 2nd in international waters. The first strike killed at least 11 people. Trump claimed that the individuals were members of Tren de Aragua, a gang that the Trump administration has designated as a terrorist organization. The tempo increased quickly. On September 15th, just as Venezuela was still absorbing the impact of the initial attack, Trump announced another U.S. strike. That attack killed 3 people who Trump described as extraordinarily violent drug trafficking cartels and narco-terrorists. The third attack followed a few days later in the Caribbean Sea on September 19th, days after the Dominican Republic said it had recovered cocaine from a boat recently destroyed in a U.S. airstrike. But it did not specify when the strike happened. On October 3rd, U.S. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth announced a U.S. military strike killed 4 men on a boat in international waters near Venezuela. From October 14th onwards, the U.S. campaign rapidly expanded in pace, geography, and intensity. Just days later, on October 16th, American forces struck a suspected semi-submersible drug vessel, killing 2 people and briefly detaining survivors. This marked the first time the U.S. held prisoners during what President Trump framed as a military campaign. On October 17th, another strike killed 3 people on a boat, and by October 21st and 22nd, the operation widened beyond the Caribbean into the Eastern Pacific. The multiple strikes killing at least 5 more people in less than 24 hours. The tempo continued to rise through late October, including a deadly October 27 strikes or series of strikes that killed 15 people in a single day. Through November, the Trump administration pressed ahead almost daily, announcing repeated strikes in both the Caribbean and Eastern Pacific. The deployment of the aircraft carrier USS Gerald Ford and thousands of additional U.S. troops signaled the scale of the buildup. By December, despite mounting scrutiny from U.S. lawmakers and regional governments, the strikes continued unabated. Repeated strikes were conducted on vessels which Washington claimed were linked to designated terrorist organizations and drug trafficking routes. The last strike that America conducted before these latest explosions in Caracas was on New Year's Eve. On December 31st, Hegseth announced the attack on 2 vessels in the Caribbean. The continuous strikes on the vessels have killed more than 100 people so far, and the Trump administration now says it has captured Nicolas Maduro. This has cemented what has become a sustained and unprecedented U.S. military campaign across Latin American waters. Reactions have been pouring in from Venezuelan people around the world. A number of Venezuelans residing abroad are celebrating Maduro's capture. These are visuals from Florida in the United States. Dozens of Venezuelan nationals were seen waving the country's flag and celebrating Maduro's ouster.
Today, justice is being served. Justice is being served for all the Venezuelans who left our country to demonstrate who we are. We are fighters, we entrepreneurs, we are good people, but we want to return to our country and rebuild, move forward, and continue being that force that we have always been. Long live Venezuela.
I am obviously very happy about everything that has happened. This is the start of the end of the dictatorship of Venezuela. I would like to take advantage of this platform to say thank you to President Donald Trump, who has been on top of this the whole time, working to help my country Venezuela, hand in hand with Maria Corina, to achieve liberty.
There are also scenes of joy in the South American nation of Chile. Venezuelan flags were seen in Chile's capital, Santiago. People danced with joy and celebrated Maduro's capture.
I've come to celebrate because the dictatorship has fallen, Maduro's drug trafficking has fallen, and Nicolas Maduro and Diosdado Cabello. We are free. We are all happy that the dictatorship has fallen and that we have a free country.
There are also some celebrations in Spain. The Venezuelan diaspora was seen waving flags again, but there was also some fear about the situation on the ground.
Muchas detonaciones.
Many explosions, a lot of unrest, helicopters flying overhead in various areas, especially in the main military centers in Caracas and the surrounding areas. They are fine, very scared of course, because they fear repression, guerrilla movements that have been armed for a long time in Venezuela and are also waiting in the wings.
Venezuela y están también a la expectativa.
But in Venezuela itself, the fear was evident, and so was the anger.
How do I feel? Scared, like everyone. Venezuelans woke up scared. Many families couldn't sleep. I have been on the street. I just got back from Maracay. Everything is blocked. Everything is bad. Very bad.
They impose the law. They are the police of the world. Assassin police. They are assassins. They are not normal people. They are assassins.
All right, so we are still waiting for President Donald Trump to appear in front of your screens. This is live at the Mar-a-Lago Beach Resort. This is the tea room where journalists have gathered to wait for the US president to address them. And the president had earlier spoken to various news networks, including Fox, where he did say that he was in a house that was more like a fortress than a house. It had steel doors. It had what they call a safety space, where it's solid steel. He was trying to get into it, but he got rushed so fast that he didn't. He's talking about Nicolas Maduro's capture. The president also says Maduro and his wife were first taken to the USS Iwo Jima, and I'll quote the president, "They are on a ship and they will be heading into New York. They went by helicopter on a nice flight. I'm sure they loved it." The president also said, and this was directed to Maduro loyalists, he's telling them if they stay loyal, the future is really bad for them. They have American flags being waved on the streets, so I think he's got very little support. He was a dictator that the people hated. So the president has already spoken, and the Attorney General of the United States, Pam Bondi, has already indicated what the United States is planning to do to the Venezuelan, now deposed Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro and the First Lady Flores. They've both been indicted of narco-terrorism. I'll just read to you what Pam Bondi did say in a short while from now. And there have been various reactions coming from across the aisle, including China, China being the latest country to condemn what it says condemnable actions by the United States, reading from the same script as Russia. Russia went further and said that the United States should release Nicolas Maduro. There have also been reactions from the United Nations. The United Nations Secretary General did issue a statement through the spokesperson. The statement says that what happened in Venezuela does not account for any lawful international justification of law. We also had a reaction from the opposition leader of Venezuela, Maria Corina Machado, who says that freedom in Venezuela begins now. She also added that González Urrutia whom Maduro claimed victory over in the contested elections last year, should immediately assume the presidency. This is according to Maria Corina Machado. Pro-Maduro supporters have already gathered in Caracas amid mostly deserted streets in Venezuela. They are waiting and holding placards condemning what the United States military did to their country. And they're saying Nicolas Maduro should not have been kidnapped from their country, or should not have been taken from their lives. So they are protesting in Caracas at this moment. They're still waiting for President Donald Trump to say what the situation will be like in Venezuela going forward, because as the president says, it is now up to America to decide the future of Venezuela. And like I said, Trump did indicate that Maduro and his wife have been taken into U.S. custody and are on the way to USS Iwo Jima warship. Excuse me. They are on the way to USS Iwo Jima on board a warship. This is a statement by a law professor in the University of Nottingham-Trent in America. He has actually said that there appears to be no lawful justification for the US attacks on Venezuela. The professor says the United Nations Charter is very clear that it is impermissible for any state to use force against any other country, with a few tightly defined exceptions. He also added that the only exceptions are self-defense or authorization from the United Nations Security Council, neither of which applies to the US action. And at this hour, Venezuelan authorities have already written to the United Nations Security Council demanding an emergency meeting by the Council and denouncing the actions by the United States. And according to the professor, there appears to be no lawful justification in international law for what would appear to be an act of aggression by the United States. Now, it is important to note that there is much expectation and anxiety over who will take charge in Venezuela. But according to pundits, they say there have been statements from a whole range of high-ranking government officials. There have been largely silence from the right-wing opposition. The left-wing opposition have been very quick to denounce these strikes, but also distance themselves from outgoing Maduro government. But there's also a constitution in Venezuela which very clearly states that at this point in time, when the president is in the first half of their mandate, the vice president automatically takes power. But there's a big but. That this article, to be valid, it is based on the premise that there was a legitimate government in place. And we know that what America has been saying, that the government of Nicolas Maduro is illegitimate. So there have been various reactions coming in from across the aisle. China, like I mentioned, is the latest nation to condemn the US strikes on Venezuela. And I did mention that the United Nations chief had already given a statement through the spokesperson. I'll just read part of the statement by the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres, who says that He's expressed his deep alarm about the escalation in Venezuela, including potential breaches of international law. The latest US attacks on Venezuela carry potential worrying implications for the region. And this is a statement that was read by the spokesperson, Stefan Dujarric. Independently of the situation in Venezuela, these developments constitute a dangerous precedent. Dujarric said Guterres continues to emphasize the importance of full respect by all of international law, including the United Nations Charter. He's deeply concerned that the rules of international law have not been respected. So as it stands right now, the deposed president of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro, is on board a warship and is headed to USS Iwo Jima. And Washington continues to release images of the deposed president of Venezuela. There you go. That's the first visual of the deposed president of Venezuela. As you can see, he's been blindfolded. He's holding a phone on his left arm and a bottle of water on his right arm. I believe this was taken when he was boarding the helicopter to the warship, USS Iwo Jima. It is important to note that the president has been indicted of narco-terrorism and various charges that the United States has leveled against the president of Venezuela and the First Lady, Flores. This picture that you see on the right on your screen is the latest picture that was actually posted by President Donald Trump on his Truth Social. It shows the deposed leader of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro, who has been blindfolded and is clasping on his phone and a bottle of water. This was when he was boarding the helicopter to USS Iwo Jima. And the president also said later that he is actually on the warship to USS Iwo Jima. So we are still waiting for the president to emerge here at Mar-a-Lago Beach Resort. This is the tea room where journalists and the world is waiting with bated breath as to what the US president is going to say. And like I mentioned, he did speak to various news agencies across the United States, where he pointed out and he explained the whole operation, where he did indicate that he watched the whole operation live, leading to the capture of Nicolas Maduro and the First Lady. It is important to mention that this is the first image of the deposed president of Venezuela that President Donald Trump has shown the world. It was taken moments before he boarded the helicopter to USS Iwo Jima. And right now we do understand that he's headed to New York. He's going to be tried in the United States of America. And I don't know if you can tell from the photo or from the image, the president looks like he is in his pajamas and he's been blindfolded, holding his phone and a bottle of water. I think this image will be beamed across the world thanks to US President Donald Trump, who's just posted it on his Truth Social. Just to recapture what has been happening, and this is the latest, Russia insists, which is also a strong ally of Venezuela, it is insisting on the US to free Maduro and his wife. I'll just read part of the statement from the Russian Foreign Ministry. In light of confirmed reports that Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro and his wife are in the US, we strongly urge the American leadership to reconsider its position and release the legally elected president of a sovereign country and his wife. Venezuela's opposition figure, Edmundo González Urrutia, who Maria Corina Machado has fronted to replace Maduro, is now saying that the opposition is ready to rebuild the nation. He's actually posted on X. He says, Venezuelans, these are decisive hours. Know that we are ready for the great operation to rebuild our nation. So that's the latest we are getting in our newsroom at this hour. The opposition figure, Edmundo González Urrutia, has responded. He's actually put up a post on X. He says, Venezuelans, these are decisive hours. Know that we are ready for the great operation to rebuild our nation. So there is a mix of feelings across the board. Venezuelans abroad expressing their gratitude to the United States for capturing Nicolas Maduro. Some of the pro-Maduro supporters are angry and in fear of what could happen next in Venezuela following the actions by the US military force in capturing their leader. And like I mentioned, this press conference was about to take place at 9:30 p.m. Indian Standard Time or 11 a.m. local time in America. But it has been delayed by at least 30 minutes or so. We are still waiting for the president to address the press and address the media in a short while from now. Many are questioning or asking, what really happens to Venezuela going forward? Let's talk to Mr. John Rossomando. He's the president of Viking Research Associates. He's also a geostrategist and expert on national security. He's now joining us live from Washington, D.C. Rossomando, it's good to see you and Happy New Year to you. We are still waiting for the president to speak and address the nation. He's quite delayed so much at this hour, so everyone is just waiting with bated breath as to what the president is going to say. What do you predict he's going to say?
And he got the narco terrorist who he was campaigning against. You know, when he was running for president in 24, he campaigned using Tren de Aragua, which he connected with Maduro's regime. So he's going to be very happy, and he's also going to say that, you know, Iran, Russia, and China have been dealt a major defeat. You see the uprisings going on in Iran, and you know, the Iranians have been involved in training some of Maduro's you know, thugs and so forth. So it's all interconnected.
Mr. Rossomando, there have been a lot of reactions from across the board. Both China and Russia, who are known to be allies of Venezuela, have actually condemned what happened to Venezuela and what happened to Nicolas Maduro. Your reaction, first of all, as to Russia saying that America should actually release the president, an elected president of a sovereign nation?
Well, from the United States perspective, Mr. Maduro is illegally seated because he refused to accept the will of the Venezuelan
I'm sorry to cut you
voters.
short. I'm sorry to cut you short, but
We appreciate you being here. Late last night and early today, at my direction, the United States Armed Forces conducted an extraordinary military operation in the capital of Venezuela. Overwhelming American military power, air, land, and sea, was used to launch a spectacular assault. And it was an assault like people have not seen since World War II. It was a force against a heavily fortified military fortress in the heart of Caracas to bring outlaw dictator Nicolas Maduro to justice. This was one of the most stunning, effective, and powerful displays of American military might and competence in American history. And if you think about it, we've done some other good ones, like the attack on Soleimani, the attack on al-Baghdadi, and the obliteration and decimation of the Iran nuclear sites just recently in an operation known as Midnight Hammer. All perfectly executed and done. No nation in the world could achieve what America achieved yesterday, or frankly in just a short period of time. All Venezuelan military capacities were rendered powerless as the men and women of our military, working with U.S. law enforcement, successfully captured Maduro in the dead of night. It was dark. The lights of Caracas were largely turned off due to a certain expertise that we have. It was dark and it was deadly. But captured along with his wife, Celia Flores, both of whom now face American justice. Maduro and Flores have been indicted in the Southern District of New York. It's Jay Clayton, for their campaign of deadly narco-terrorism against the United States and its citizens. I want to thank the men and women of our military who achieved such an extraordinary success overnight with breathtaking speed, power, precision, and competence. You rarely see anything like it. You've seen some raids in this country that didn't go so well. They were an embarrassment. If you look back to Afghanistan, or if you look back to the Jimmy Carter days, they were different days. We're a respected country again, like never before. These highly trained warriors, operating in collaboration with U.S. law enforcement, caught them in a very ready position. They were waiting for us. They knew we had many ships out in the sea. We're just sort of waiting. They knew we were coming. So they were in a ready, what's called a ready position. But they were completely overwhelmed and very quickly incapacitated. If you would have seen what I saw last night, you would have been very impressed. I'm not sure that you'll ever get to see it, but it was an incredible thing to see. Not a single American service member was killed, and not a single piece of American equipment was lost. We had many helicopters, many planes, many people involved in that fight. But think of that, not one piece of military equipment was lost, not one service member was, more importantly, killed. The United States military is the strongest and most fearsome military on the planet by far. with capabilities and skills our enemies can scarcely begin to imagine. We have the best equipment anywhere in the world. There's no equipment like what we have, and you see that even if you just look at the boats. You know, we've knocked out 97% of the drugs coming in by sea. 90%. Each boat kills on average, 25,000 people. We knocked out 97%. And those drugs mostly come from a place called Venezuela. We're going to run the country until such time as we can do a safe, proper, and judicious transition. So we don't want to be involved with having somebody else get in, and we have the same situation that we had for the last long period of years. So we are going to run the country until such time as we can do a safe, proper, and judicious transition. And it has to be judicious because that's what we're all about. We want peace, liberty, and justice for the great people of Venezuela, and that includes many from Venezuela that are now living in the United States and want to go back to their country. It's their homeland. We can't take a chance that somebody else takes over Venezuela that doesn't have the good of the Venezuelan people in mind. We've had decades of that. We're not going to let that happen. We're there now, and what people don't understand, but they understand as I say this, we're there now, but we're going to stay until such time as the proper transition can take place. So we're going to stay until such time as we're going to run it, essentially, until such time as a proper transition can take place. As everyone knows, the oil business in Venezuela has been a bust, a total bust, for a long period of time. They were pumping almost nothing by comparison to what they could have been pumping and what could have taken place. We're going to have our very large United States oil companies, the biggest anywhere in the world, go in, spend billions of dollars, fix the badly broken infrastructure, the oil infrastructure, and start making money for the country. And we are ready to stage a second and much larger attack if we need to do so. So we were prepared to do a second wave if we needed to do so. We actually assumed that a second wave would be necessary, but now it's probably not. The first wave, if you'd like to call it that, the first attack was so successful, we probably don't have to do a second, but we're prepared to do a second wave, a much bigger wave, actually. This was pinpoint, but we have a much bigger wave that probably won't have to do. This partnership of Venezuela with the United States of America, a country that everybody wants to be involved with because of what we were able to do and accomplish, will make the people of Venezuela rich, independent, and safe. And it will also make the many, many people from Venezuela that are living in the United States extremely happy. They suffered. They suffered. So much was taken from them. They're not going to suffer anymore. The illegitimate dictator Maduro was the kingpin of a vast criminal network responsible for trafficking colossal amounts of deadly and illicit drugs into the United States. As alleged in the indictment, he personally oversaw the vicious cartel known as Cartel de las Soles, which flooded our nation with lethal poison, responsible for the deaths of countless Americans, the many, many Americans. Hundreds of thousands over the years of Americans died because of him. Maduro and his wife will soon face the full might of American justice and stand trial on American soil. Right now, they're on a ship. They'll be heading to, ultimately, New York, and then a decision will be made, I assume, between New York and Miami or Florida. But we have people where the overwhelming evidence of their crimes will be presented in a court of law. And I've seen it. I've seen what we have. It's It's both horrible and breathtaking that something like this could have been allowed to take place. For many years after his term as president of Venezuela expired, Maduro remained in power and waged a ceaseless campaign of violence, terror, and subversion against the United States of America, threatening not only our people, but the stability of the entire region. And you all saw it. In addition to trafficking gigantic amounts of illegal drugs that inflicted untold suffering and human destruction all over the country, all over in particular the United States, Maduro sent savage and murderous gangs, including the bloodthirsty prison gang Tren de Aragua, to terrorize American communities nationwide. And he did indeed. They were in Colorado. They took over apartment complexes. They cut the fingers off people if they called police. They were brutal, but they're not so brutal now. And I just have to congratulate our military, Pete and everybody, and our National Guard, because the job that they've done, whether it's in Washington, D.C., where we have a totally safe city, where it was one of the most unsafe cities anywhere in the world, frankly, and now we have no crime in Washington, D.C. We haven't had a killing. We had the terrorist attack a few weeks ago, a little bit of a different kind of a threat, but we haven't had a killing in a long period of time, 6-7 months. We used to have two, on average, 2 a week in Washington, our capital. We don't have that anymore. The restaurants are opening. Everyone's happy. They're going, they're walking their daughters, they're walking their children, their wives. They walk to restaurants. Restaurants are opening all over Washington, D.C. So I want to thank the National Guard. I want to thank our military. And I want to thank law enforcement. It's been amazing. And they should do it with more cities. We're doing it, as you know, and we're doing it in Memphis, Tennessee right now, and crime is down. We've just sort of started a few weeks ago, but crime is down now 77%. And the governor of Louisiana called, great person, and he wanted us to help him, as you know, in a certain very nice part of Louisiana. And we have done that. And it was a rough section, and we have crime down. I understand it's down to almost nothing already after 2.5 weeks. New Orleans, it's down to almost nothing. And we've only been there for 2.5 weeks. Can't imagine why governors wouldn't want us to help. We also helped, as you know, in Chicago, and crime went down a little bit there. We did a very small help because we had no working ability with the governor. The governor was a disaster, and the mayor was a disaster. But it knocked down crime. But we're pulling out of there. When they need us, we'll know. You'll know. You'll be writing about it. And likewise, Los Angeles, where we saved Los Angeles early on, where the head of the police department made a statement that if the federal government didn't come in, we would have lost Los Angeles. That's long after the fires. That's when they had the riots in Los Angeles. We did a great job. Got no credit for it whatsoever, but that's okay. It doesn't matter. We don't need the credit. But we'll be pulling out when they need us. They'll call, or we'll go back if we have to. We'll go back. But we did a great job in various cities. But the place that we're very proud of is Washington, D.C., because it's our nation's capital. We took it from being a crime-ridden mess to being one of the safest cities in the country. But the gangs that they sent raped, tortured, and murdered American women and children. They were in all of the cities I mentioned, Tren de Aragua. And they were sent by Maduro to terrorize our people, and now Maduro will never again be able to threaten an American citizen or anybody from Venezuela. There will no longer be threats. For years, I've highlighted the stories of those innocent Americans whose lives were so heartlessly robbed by this Venezuelan terrorist organization. Really one of the worst. One of the worst, they say the worst. Americans like 12-year-old Jocelyn Nungari from Houston. Beautiful Jocelyn Nungari, what happened to her? They, as you know, they kidnapped, assaulted, and murdered by Tren de Aragua animals. They murdered Jocelyn. And left her dead under the bridge. It was a bridge that will never be the same to so many people after seeing what happened. As I've said many times, the Maduro regime emptied out their prisons, sent their worst and most violent monsters into the United States to steal American lives. And they came from mental institutions and insane asylums. They came from prisons and jails. The reason I say both, they sound similar. Actually, prisons a little bit more hostile, a little bit tougher. A mental institution isn't as tough as an insane asylum, but we got them both. They sent from their mental institutions. They sent from their jails, prisons. They were drug dealers. They were drug kingpins. They sent everybody bad into the United States, but no longer. And we have now a border where nobody gets through. In addition, Venezuela unilaterally seized and sold American oil, American assets, and American platforms, costing us billions and billions of dollars. They did this a while ago, but we never had a president that did anything about it. They took all of our property. It was our property. We built it. And we never had a president that decided to do anything about it. Instead, they fought wars that were 10,000 miles away. We built Venezuela oil industry with American talent, drive, and skill, and the socialist regime stole it from us during those previous administrations, and they stole it through force. This constituted one of the largest thefts of American property in the history of our country. Considered the largest theft of property in the history of our country. Massive oil infrastructure was taken like we were babies, and we didn't do anything about it. I would have done something about it. America will never allow foreign powers to rob our people or drive us back into and out of our own hemisphere. That's what they did. Furthermore, under the now deposed dictator Maduro, Venezuela was increasingly hosting foreign adversaries in our region and acquiring men stronger than ever before. But these are the iron laws that have always determined global power. And we're going to keep it that way. We will secure our borders. We will stop the terrorists. We will crash the cartels, and we will defend our citizens against all threats, foreign and domestic. Other presidents may have lacked the courage or whatever to defend America, but I will never allow terrorists and criminals to operate with impunity against the United States. This extremely successful operation should serve as warning to anyone who would threaten American sovereignty or endanger American lives. Very importantly, the embargo on all Venezuelan oil remains in full effect. The American Armada remains poised in position, and the United States retains all military options until United States demands have been fully met and fully satisfied. All political and military figures in Venezuela should understand what happened to Maduro can happen to them, and it will happen to them if they aren't just, fair, even to their people. The dictator and terrorist Maduro is finally gone, and Venezuela people are free. They're free again. It's been a long time for them, but they're free. America is a safer nation. This morning, it's a prouder nation this morning because it didn't allow this horrible person and this country that was doing very bad things to us. It didn't allow it to happen. And the Western Hemisphere is right now a much safer place to be. So I want to thank everybody for being here. I want to thank General Raisin Kane. He's a fantastic man. I've worked with a lot of generals. I worked with some I didn't like. I worked with some I didn't respect. I worked with some that just weren't good. But this guy is fantastic. I watched last night one of the most precise attacks on sovereignty. I mean, it was an attack for justice. And I'm very proud of him, and I'm very proud of our Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, who I'm going to ask to say a few words. Thank you very much.
Mr. President, can you explain how the U.S. will run Venezuela?
Well, thank you, Mr. President. Finally, a commander-in-chief the world respects and the American people deserve. And as the President said, Words can barely capture the bravery and the power and the precision of this historic operation. A massive joint military and law enforcement raid flawlessly executed by the greatest Americans our country has to offer. American warriors are second to none, the best in the world and the best of our country. What all of us witnessed last night was sheer guts and grit, gallantry, and glory of the American warrior. I'm simply humbled by such men. And I tip my hat to our chairman, Dan Raisin Kane, and all those Americans who stood watch last night. Our warriors are the elite of America, and again, President Trump has your back. No other country on planet Earth, and it's not even close, could pull this kind of operation off. And no other president has ever shown this kind of leadership, courage, and resolve, the most powerful combination the world has ever seen. As the president said, our adversaries remain on notice. America can project our will anywhere, anytime. The coordination, the stealth, the lethality, the precision, the very long arm of American justice, all on full display in the middle of the night. Nicolas Maduro had his chance, just like Iran had their chance, until they didn't and until he didn't. He effed around and he found out. President Trump is deadly serious about stopping the flow of gangs and violence to our country. Deadly serious about stopping the flow of drugs and poison to our people. Deadly serious about getting back the oil that was stolen from us. And deadly serious about reestablishing American deterrence and dominance in the Western Hemisphere. This is about the safety, security, freedom, and prosperity of the American people. This is America first. This is peace through strength. And the United States War Department is proud to help deliver it. Welcome to 2026. And under President Trump, America is back. I'd like to welcome now our chairman, Chairman Raisin Kane, to give a few more details about the operation. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Thank you, Mr. President, and good morning. Last night, on the order of the President of the United States and in support of a request from the Department of Justice, as the President said, the United States military conducted an apprehension mission in Caracas, Venezuela, to bring to justice two indicted persons, Nicolas and Cecilia Maduro. This operation, known as Operation Absolute Resolve, was discreet, precise, and conducted during the darkest hours of January 2nd and was the culmination of months of planning and rehearsal, an operation that, frankly, only the United States military could undertake. What I'd like to do this morning is talk to you through some of the preparation and the details without compromising any of our tactics, techniques, and procedures. There is always a chance that we'll be tasked to do this type of mission again. Our interagency work began months ago and built on decades of experience of integrating complex air, ground, space, and maritime operations. While the past 2 decades have honed the skills of our special operations forces, this particular mission required every component of our joint force, with soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and Guardians working in unison with our intelligence agency partners and law enforcement teammates in an unprecedented operation. We leveraged our unmatched intelligence capabilities and our years of experience in hunting terrorists, and we could not have done this mission without the incredible work by various intelligence agencies, including the CIA, NSA, and NGA. We watched, we waited, we prepared, we remained patient and professional. This mission was meticulously planned, drawing lessons from decades of missions over the last many years, many missions over these last many years. This was an audacious operation that only the United States could do. It required the utmost of precision and integration within our joint force. And the word integration does not explain the sheer complexity of such a mission. An extraction, so precise it involved more than 150 aircraft launching across the Western Hemisphere in close coordination, all coming together in time and place to layer effects for a single purpose: to get an interdiction force into downtown Caracas while maintaining the element of tactical surprise. Failure of one component of this well-oiled machine would have endangered the entire mission, and failure is never an option for America's joint force. Those in the air over Caracas last night were willing to give their lives for those on the ground and in the helicopters. Let me talk a little bit about the preparation. After months of work by our intelligence teammates to find Maduro and understand how he moved, where he lived, where he traveled, what he ate, what he wore, what were his pets, in early December, our force was set pending a series of aligned events. Key was choosing the right day to minimize the potential for civilian harm and maximize the element of surprise, and minimize the harm to the indicted personnel, so as the president said, they could be brought to justice. And as the president said earlier today, weather in Venezuela is always a factor this time of the year. And over the weeks through Christmas and New Year's, the men and women of the United States military sat ready, patiently waiting for the right triggers to be met and the president to order us into action. Last night, the weather broke just enough, clearing a path that only the most skilled aviators in the world could maneuver through. Ocean, mountain, low cloud ceilings. But when tasked with a mission, this organization does not quit. At 10:46 p.m. Eastern Time last night, the president ordered the United States military to move forward with this mission. He said to us, and we appreciate it, Mr. President, good luck and Godspeed. And those words were transmitted to the entire joint force. Over the course of the night, aircraft began launching from 20 different bases on land and sea across the Western Hemisphere. In total, more than 150 aircraft, bombers, fighters, intelligence, reconnaissance, surveillance, rotary wing were in the air last night. Thousands and thousands of hours of experience were airborne. Our youngest crew member was 20, and our oldest crew member was 49, and there's simply no match for American military might. As the night began, the helicopters took off with the extraction force, which included law enforcement officers, and began their flight into Venezuela at 100 feet above the water. As they approached Venezuelan shores, the United States began layering different effects provided by Spacecom, Cybercom, and other members of the interagency to create a pathway. Overhead, those forces were protected by aircraft from the United States Marines, the United States Navy, the United States Air Force, and the Air National Guard. The force included F-22s, F-35s, F-18s, EA-18s, E-2s, B-1 bombers, and other support aircraft, as well as numerous remotely piloted drones. As the force began to approach Caracas, the Joint Air Component began dismantling and disabling the air defense systems in Venezuela, employing weapons to ensure the safe passage of the helicopters into the target area. The goal of our air component was, and always will be to protect the helicopters and the ground force and get them to the target and get them home. As the force crossed the last point of high terrain where they'd been hiding in the clutter, we assessed that we had maintained totally the element of surprise. As the helicopter force ingressed towards the objective at low level, we arrived at Maduro's compound at 1:01 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, or 2:01 a.m. Caracas local time, and the apprehension force descended into Maduro's compound and moved with speed, precision, and discipline towards their objective, and isolated the area to ensure the safety and security of the ground force while apprehending the indicted persons. On arrival into the target area, the helicopters came under fire, and they replied with that fire with overwhelming force in self-defense. One of our aircraft was hit but remained flyable, and as the president said earlier today, all of our aircraft came home, and that aircraft remained flyable during the rest of the mission. As the operation unfolded at the compound, our air and ground intelligence teams provided real-time updates to the ground force, ensuring those forces could safely navigate the complex environment without unnecessary risk. The force remained protected by overhead tactical aviation. Maduro and his wife, both indicted, gave up and were taken into custody by the Department of Justice, assisted by our incredible U.S. military with professionalism and precision, with no loss of U.S. life. After securing the indicted persons, the force began to prep for departure. Helicopters were called in to exfiltrate the extraction force, while fighter aircraft and remotely piloted aircraft provided overhead coverage and suppressive fire. There were multiple self-defense engagements as the force began to withdraw out of Venezuela. The force successfully exfiltrated and returned to their afloat launch bases, and the force was over the water at 3:29 a.m. Eastern Standard Time with indicted persons on board. And both Maduro and his wife were embarked aboard the USS Iwo Jima. In closing, what we've witnessed today is a powerful demonstration of America's joint force. We think, we develop, we train, we rehearse, we debrief, we rehearse again and again, not to get it right, but to ensure that we cannot get it wrong. Our jobs are to integrate combat power so when the order comes, we can deliver overwhelming force at the time and the place of our choosing against any foe anywhere in the world. I am immensely proud today of our joint force and filled with gratitude to represent them here today. There is simply no mission too difficult for these incredible professionals and the families that stand by them and support them. As we stand here this morning, our forces remain in the region at a high state of readiness, prepared to project power, defend themselves, and our interests in the region. This operation is a testament to the dedication and unwavering commitment to justice and our resolve to hold accountable those who threaten peace and stability. In closing, I want to express my heartfelt gratitude to the brave men and women who executed this mission. Their courage and tireless commitment to our nation are what makes us strong. Thank you, Mr. Secretary, and thank you, Mr. President.
Well, I don't have much to add to what you've heard now, other than the following points. Nicolas Maduro was indicted in 2020 in the United States. He is not the legitimate president of Venezuela. That's not just us saying it. The first Trump administration, the Biden administration, the second Trump administration, none of those three recognized him. He's not recognized by the European Union and multiple countries around the world. He is a fugitive of American justice with a $50 million reward, which I guess we saved $50 million. And
make sure.
Yeah, exactly. But
don't let anybody claim it. Nobody deserves it but us.
But I want to be clear about one thing. Nicolas Maduro had multiple opportunities to avoid this. He was provided multiple very, very, very generous offers and chose instead to act like a wild man, chose instead to play around. And the result is what we saw tonight. The other message here is the following. You have a guy, like many people around the world, they like to play games. You have a guy who decides he's going to invite Iran into his country, is going to, do the confiscation of American oil companies, is going to flood our country with gang members, is going to take Americans prisoner and try to hold them for hostage and trade them like he was able to do with the Biden administration. Basically likes to play games all this time and thinks nothing's going to happen. And I hope what people now understand is that we have a president. The 47th president of the United States is not a game player. When he tells you that he's going to do something, when tells you he's going to address a problem, he means it. He actions it. I can tell you, I've watched this process now for 14, 15 years, been around it. Everybody talks. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. When I get there, we're going to do this. We're going to take. This is a president of action. Like, I don't understand yet how they haven't figured this out. And now, if you don't know, now you know. because this is the way it's going to play out. And I think people need to understand that this is not a president that just talks and does letters and press conferences. And, you know, if he says he's serious about something, he means it. And this is something that was a direct threat to the national interest of the United States, and the president addressed it. There's a president of peace, by the way. I told you what I just said earlier. This guy had multiple opportunities to find his way somewhere else and figure out another. He could have been living somewhere else right now, very happy, but instead he wanted to play big boy. And so now, you know, he's got other sets of problems on his hands. And but I think that the message here should be for the world. Look, the president doesn't go out looking for people to pick fights with. He's not generally wants to get along with everybody. We'll talk and meet with anybody, but don't play games. Don't play games with this president's in office, because it's not going to turn out well. And so I hope that I guess that lesson was learned last night, and we hope it'll be instructive moving forward.
Is that a message for Cuba, Mr. President?
Mr. President, Mr. President,
Mr. President,
you said that the U.S. is going to run Venezuela. So who's in power right now?
Well, we're going to be running it with a group, and we're going to make sure it's run properly. We're going to rebuild the oil infrastructure, which will cost billions of dollars. It'll be paid for by the oil companies directly. They will be reimbursed for what they're doing, but that's going to be paid. And we're going to get the oil flowing the way it should be. As you know, it was just a minor flow. It was actually a minor flow for what they have. But we're going to run it properly, and we're going to make sure the people of Venezuela are taken care of. We're going to make sure the people that were forced out of Venezuela by this thug are also taken care of.
Mr. President, does the U.S. running the country mean that U.S. troops will be on the ground? How will that work?
Well, you know, they always say boots on the ground. Oh, so we're not afraid of boots on the ground if we have to have. We had boots on the ground last night at a very high level, actually. We're not afraid of it. We don't mind saying it, but we're going to make sure that that country is run properly. We're not doing this in vain. This is a very dangerous attack. This is an attack that could have gone very, very badly. Could have gone very badly. We could have lost a lot of people last night. We could have lost a lot of dignity. We could have lost a lot of equipment. The equipment is less important, but we could have lost a lot, and we're going to make sure that this is proper. We're there now. We're ready to go again if we have to. We're going to run the country right. It's going to be run very judiciously, very fairly. It's going to make a lot of money. We're going to give money to the people. We're going to reimburse people that were taken advantage of. We're going to take care of everybody. It's very important. We couldn't let them get away with it. You know, they stole our oil. We built that whole industry there. And they just took it over like we were nothing. And we had a president that decided not to do anything about it. So we did something about it. We're late, but we did something about it. Yeah, please.
Mr. President, will you explain the exact mechanism by which you're going to run the country? Are you going to designate a U.S. official to coordinate?
Yes, it's all being done right now. We're designating people. We're talking to people. We're designating various people, and we're going to let you know who those people are.
That would run Venezuela.
Well, it's largely going to be for a period of time the people that are standing right behind me. We're going to be running it. We're going to be bringing it back. It's a dead, I talk about a dead country. A year and a half ago, we were a dead country. Now we're the hottest country anywhere in the world. We're a country doing better than any country anywhere in the world. And it required leadership. Venezuela has a lot of bad people in there, a lot of bad people that shouldn't be leading. We're not going to take a chance that one of those people take over for Maduro. So you can look at, and others, we have fantastic people, including people in the military. So we're going to have a group of people running it until such time as it can be put back on track, make a lot of money for the people, and give people a great way of life, and also reimbursement for people in our country that were forced out of Venezuela.
Rubio would be...
You said earlier today that you weren't going to back Machado to come back and be the opposition leader in your Fox and Friends interview. And then you also mentioned the vice president of Venezuela. Are you going to work with the vice president of Venezuela, or how do you foresee the relationship going?
I understand she was just sworn in, but she was, as you know, picked by Maduro. So Marco's working on that directly. He's just had a conversation with her, and she's essentially willing to do what we think is necessary to make Venezuela great again. Very simple.
Mr. President, so Colombian President Gustavo Petro, a couple weeks ago, he said he's got to watch his ass. And today he said he's not concerned about anything happening to him in the aftermath of this operation. So just what your message is about that.
Well, he has cocaine mills. He has factories where he makes cocaine. And yeah, I think I stick by my first statement. He's making cocaine. They're sending it into the United States. So he does have to watch his ass.
Rubio, did you notify any members of Congress in advance?
Marco, do you want to talk about that? Because you were involved in it.
Sure. We called members of Congress immediately after. This was not the kind of mission that you can do congressional notification on. It was a trigger-based mission in which conditions had to be met night after night. We watched and monitored that for a number of days. So it's just simply not the kind of mission you can call people and say, hey, we may do this at some point in the next 15 days. But it's largely a law enforcement function. Remember, at the end of the day, at its core, this was an arrest of 2 indicted fugitives of American justice, and the Department of War supported the Department of Justice in that job. Now, there are broader policy implications here, but it's just not the kind of mission that you can pre-notify because it endangers the mission.
Plus, if I could add one thing to that, Congress has a tendency to leak. This would not be good. If they leaked, General, I think it would have been maybe a very different result. But I have to say, they knew we were coming at some point, We had a lot of ships out there. They sort of knew we were coming. We went there. But Congress will leak, and we don't want leakers.
Mr. President, you were one of the only people to watch this all play out live. What was Maduro doing when the U.S. forces entered what I assume would be his home? And also, was there any point where the U.S. was considering if Maduro pushed back or resisted killing Maduro?
It could have happened. It could have happened. He was trying to get into a safe place. The safe place is all steel. And he wasn't able to make it to the door because our guys were so fast. They went through the opposition so fast. And there was a lot of opposition. People were wondering, do we get them by surprise? Sort of surprised, but they were waiting for something. It was a lot of opposition. There was a lot of gunfire. You saw some of it today. But he was trying to get to a safe place. Incredible. Right now, you wouldn't have peace in the Middle East. We have essentially peace in the Middle East because of that. If we weren't successful with Midnight Hammer, you wouldn't have peace in the Middle East. So, with me, you've had a lot of victory. You've had only victories. You've had no losses. Yeah.
President, how long do you expect the U.S. to run Venezuela, and how soon do you want the Venezuelan people to hold elections?
So I'd like to do it quickly, but it takes a period of time. We're rebuilding. We have to rebuild their whole infrastructure. The infrastructure is rotted. It's actually very dangerous. It's blow-up territory. Oil is very dangerous. It's a very dangerous thing to take out of the ground. Can kill a lot of people. It has killed a lot of people doing just that. The infrastructure is old. It's rotted. Much of it is stuff that we put there 25 years ago, and we're going to be replacing it. And we're going to take a lot of money out so that we can take care of the country. Yeah.
Are you saying that Secretary Rubio and
Mr. President, China, Russia, and Iran have interests in Venezuela?
All right, so that is the President of the United States. He has already given details on what really transpired in Venezuela. He says, and I think some of the pointers that are very quick to note here is that we are going to run the country with a group until a judicious transition. We are designating various people. We are talking to the Vice President. This is the United States of America. This is President Trump. This is what happened in Venezuela. You are watching WION World is One. And that's it. You now know what happened in Venezuela. You are watching WION World is One.
From Avengers Doomsday to Ramayana Part 1, know all about the big budget releases of 2026.
It's your boy Flipperachi from Outlaw Productions.
Meet Bahraini rapper Flipperachi as he talks about fast love. And find out why India is emerging as the world's go-to concert hub. All this and much more with me, Diksha Bisla, on WION at these times.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening. As we reveal the key factors behind events strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh. To some, it's an extreme ideology. To others, it's the very soul of India. To some, it's rebellion. To others, it's a principle of nation building, coming soon to challenge perceptions in RS's centenary year, Kesariya at 100.
WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide, because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION, World is One. From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh. To some, it's an extreme ideology. To others, it's the very soul of India. To some, it's rebellion. To others, it's a principle of nation building, coming soon to challenge perceptions in RS's centenary year, Kesariya at 100.
WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide, because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION, World is One. From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
Have you been in contact with her?
No, we haven't. No, we haven't.
Mr. President,
do you have any hesitations about Machado?
Mr. President, on Monday.
Oh, I think it would be very tough for her to be the leader. She doesn't have the support within or the respect within the country. She's a very nice woman, but she doesn't have the respect to be the leader.
Mr. President, is it possible that the U.S. ends up administrating Venezuela for years?
Well, it won't cost us anything because the money coming out of the ground is very substantial, so it's not going to cost us anything. We want safety there. We want to be surrounded by countries that aren't housing all of our enemies all over the world. That's what was happening, and you don't want to have that. But we're going to be rebuilding, and we're not spending money. The oil companies are going to go in. They're going to spend money. We're going to take back the oil that, frankly, we should have taken back a long time ago. A lot of money is coming out of the ground. We're going to get reimbursed for all of that. We're going to get reimbursed for everything that we spend. So it's going to be it's going to be a very important, this is a very big evening that took place last night. We have to be surrounded by safe, secure countries. And we also have to have energy, very important. We have to have energy that's real energy, not where they're getting 4% and 5% of the energy out of the ground. You take a look, it was such a disaster. So what's going to happen with Venezuela, I think, over the next period of a year is going to be a great thing. And the people of Venezuela will be the biggest beneficiaries.
Mr. President, U.S. military.
Mr. President, thank you. What did you last speak to Maduro about when you spoke? And is the U.S.
Well, I don't want to get
at war
into
with
the
Venezuela?
conversations, but I did have conversations with him, and I said, you got to surrender. And I actually thought he was pretty close to doing so, but now he wished he did, yeah.
Mr. President, can you explain, you said that Maduro is responsible for drug trafficking. You recently pardoned the former president of Honduras who was convicted on many drug trafficking. Can you explain how these two situations are different? And would you ever pardon Maduro?
I endorsed, as you know, the winning president, the man who won in Honduras. I endorsed the man who won in Chile. I endorsed the man who won in Argentina. And we are doing very well with that whole group. What the man that I pardoned was, if you could equate it to us, he was treated like the Biden administration treated a man named Trump. That didn't work out too well for them. This was a man who was persecuted very unfairly. He was the head of the country. He was persecuted very unfairly. And there are a number of them. And we felt that it was a very unfair situation that happened to him. He's also a party member of the man who won. So obviously the people liked what I did. And one of the reasons that was done is because of the fact that the party in power felt very strongly that that man was treated very badly. I studied it very quickly, and then I studied it in great detail. I went to a lot of the people standing behind me, and they felt that that man was persecuted and treated very badly. That's why I gave him a pardon.
You referenced boots on the ground earlier. Can you just sort of button this up? Do you envision the U.S. military having a presence in Venezuela as the U.S. runs that country?
No, we're going to have a presence in Venezuela as it pertains to oil, because we have to have, we're sending our expertise in. So you may need something, not very much. But no, we're going to be taking out a tremendous amount of wealth out of the ground. And that wealth is going to the people of Venezuela and people from outside of Venezuela that used to be in Venezuela. And it goes also to the United States of America in the form of reimbursement for the damages caused us by that country. So I want to thank you all very much. Thank you. Do you have one? Yes, please. You were so nice before. I'm going to give you the final question. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr.
Unless
President.
it's a bad question, in which case I'll go one word. It's about who?
It's about Putin, if you want.
About Putin? Well, that's always nice to talk about Putin.
You had a phone call with him on Monday. Did he talk at all about Maduro? Did y'all talk about this?
No, we didn't. We never spoke about Maduro.
Are you mad at him right now? I mean, there's this
I'm not
intelligence.
thrilled with Putin. I'm not thrilled with Putin. He's killing too many people.
There was that
I
intelligence.
thought that would be. So I settled 8 1/4 war. You know what the 1/4 was? Thailand and Cambodia. I did it again. They broke out, and I did it in about 5 hours, and I settled it. I'm giving myself 1/4, so I'm up to now 8 1/4. In other words, I settled the war, but then they broke out. They had a pretty bad breakout over the last 4 days. I got them to go back to peace. So I only give 1/4. I thought the easiest one would be, one of the easier ones would be Russia, Ukraine. It's not. And they both have done some pretty bad things. And look, that's Biden's war. That's not my war. But I want to stop the lives. Did you see where last month, 30,000, it was 27,000 the month before. 30,000, mostly soldiers, were killed this last month. 30,000. I want to stop that. You know, I got NATO to pay 5% instead of the 2% that they weren't paying. They weren't paying 2, now they pay 5. And we send them a lot of munitions. We send them a lot of things, missiles and various other things, a lot. And they pay. The United States is not losing money. We're probably making money on that. It's the last thing I care about. I just want to stop all those people. We're losing 25, 30,000 human beings that come from 2 places that are very far away. But if I can stop, because it's something I've been pretty good at doing, deals, I guess. It's all a deal. Life is a big deal. But if I can stop that war and stop 30,000 young people, in addition to the fact that people are being killed in Kiev, people are being killed in other cities throughout, a much smaller number, but they're being killed, viciously killed. So I'm not happy about it. I thought that would be something that would get solved. We have Mr. Witkoff here. I think that we're making progress, but that's a war that should have never happened. If I were president, it would have never happened. Putin says it. Everybody says it. If I were president, that would have never happened. But I inherited that war. That was Joe Biden, Zelensky, and Putin. I came into the situation, and it's a mess. And I will say this. I watched an operation last night that was so precise, that was so brilliant. I mean, it was incredible. If we had our people, like this general and our people involved, that war would not have gone on very long, that I can tell you. That war, to use an old term, that war has become a bloodbath, and we want it to get stopped. Thank you very much.
Take over the country.
So that is the United States President Donald Trump, flanked by his Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, and the Foreign Secretary or the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, and General Dan Kane, who's the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Just to recap on what the president said, some of the big statements that the president has made. He says, we are going to run the country with a group until a judicious transition. We are designating various people. We are talking to the vice president. We are going to make the people of Venezuela very rich and safe. Large, busy or business oil companies will go into Venezuela. Maduro and his wife have been indicted of serious crimes, and they will face the full might of the U.S. justice. He calls the president illegitimate dictator responsible for drugs entering the United States. Let's just continue recapping what the president said, and joining us now is Susan Teherani. She's our correspondent in New York. Susan Teherani, quite a statement, quite a day, both for the United States and for Venezuela. I'm pretty sure some of the reactions are still coming in from the United States. Maybe you can tell us more about that.
Yeah, I think Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State, made very clear about the kind of operation this was, being an extradition operation, basically drawing a comparison with anyone that is illegitimately targeting the United States as part of a national security and law enforcement rubric, that the United States under constitutional law has the authority, because this individual has been indicted, in this case Maduro, and also a judge has ordered for criminal charges, official criminal charges here in New York, to be against him. And that was the reason why the United States went in and arrested Maduro. I thought it was very interesting that President Trump himself and his administration noted that they actually gave Maduro an off-ramp many times, and President Trump directly spoke with Maduro more than one time, offering him an off-ramp, but Maduro decided to stay, and now this is his fate. Very similar to, I'm sure a lot of our viewers will remember or have read about, Manuel Noriega, who was arrested by the United States under the same charges. He was the de facto Panama leader back in 1989. He was brought to the United States, arrested, and then he was convicted. He was in U.S. prison. His conviction was 40 years. He got released, got extradited to France for money laundering charges, and eventually sent back to Panama, where he continued to be in prison. But I think the headline grabbing incident regarding not only this attack, but the president's press conference will be that the United States will be involved in Venezuela moving forward. Not only oil companies, but also President Trump said that he's not afraid of boots on the ground. This is very, very telling of what kind of role the United States will play in Venezuela. He said that a group is going to control Venezuela. He also said that he doesn't believe that the Nobel Peace Prize laureate, the Venezuelan opposition, the lady is popular enough in Venezuela to lead Venezuela, and he said that he's thinking of other people. As we're speaking right now, Venezuela's vice president has been sworn in as the country's president, but Venezuelans here in the United States, and notably Latin Americans who had to leave Venezuela are celebrating. They think this is the dawn of the new day. However, there is a lot of cautious optimism because of the manner this attack was carried out, and just because of the history of U.S. involvement in other countries and how those countries often are left with a power vacuum, and how it takes a very long time if it does ultimately become reconstructed and becomes this prosperous image that President Trump and other U.S. presidents prior to him have sort of offered and presented to the world and the American people.
Also, a headline grabber from the president. He says that we are going to designate various people. We are already speaking to some people in Venezuela who will take charge of the country, and that goes along with what he's also said, that a group of individuals is going to run the country, basically saying that America is now going to run Venezuela. Susan Teherani, thank you. Donald Trump has just given a press conference about the capture of Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. Trump has detailed the operation that led to Maduro's capture, and he spoke about what happens to Venezuela next. Trump says that the United States is going to run Venezuela. Washington is going to run the country, at least until a proper transition can take place. Trump did not provide a timeline. He did not elaborate on what a proper transition means. Trump also spoke about American oil companies and their plans for Venezuela. He said that American oil firms will be going into Venezuela and investing in the oil infrastructure. And Trump added, and I quote, "We are going to make people of Venezuela rich and safe." Trump began his speech by lauding the operation that led to Maduro's capture. He said that not a single American service member was killed and not one piece of U.S. military equipment was lost during the capture of Maduro and his wife. Trump hailed it as one of the most stunning displays of U.S. military might in American history. He said it was an assault that the planet had not seen since the Second World War. And Trump also said that no nation could have achieved what the United States achieved. The American president said that it was the United States that had caused a massive blackout in Venezuela leading up to Maduro's capture. He said that American forces had planned a second wave of attacks in case they were required. But Trump added that considering Maduro's capture, a second wave doesn't seem necessary anymore. Well, details have emerged about how Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro was struck down by the U.S. Reports say that a source inside the Venezuelan government helped America's Central Intelligence Agency track Maduro. A report in the New York Times says that the CIA cultivated a source in the Maduro administration. This source helped the Americans track Maduro's location even up until moments before his capture. Former CIA officials say that the $50 million bounty that the U.S. put on Maduro may have helped the CIA cultivate the source. The U.S. has had a bounty on Maduro since 2020. But in August 2025, the U.S. increased the size of the bounty to $50 million. The CIA also reportedly used a fleet of stealth drones to monitor Maduro. In November, President Trump had empowered the CIA to prepare operations in Venezuela. Trump had also given the CIA permission to take aggressive action. But Maduro's capture was undertaken by the U.S. military, not the CIA. The CIA provided the intelligence, but Maduro and his wife were captured by the U.S. military's Special Operation Forces.
Oficialmente, porque nosotros estamos unidos desde nuestra alma con Dios, en Dios y por Dios.
Amor.
The United States has captured Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro. He also said that he saw the capture live and described it like watching a TV show. That's according to the president. The U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi says that Maduro will now face the full wrath of American justice. Bondi says Maduro and his wife will face justice on American soil in American courts. And she called the Venezuelan president an alleged international narco trafficker. Bondi also highlighted that Nicolas Maduro has been charged with narco-terrorism conspiracy and cocaine importation conspiracy. Remember, the U.S. says that Maduro leads a drug cartel. It's called the Cartel de los Soles, which translates to Cartel of the Suns. The name is derived from the sun insignias that are used by Venezuelan generals on their uniforms instead of traditional stars. The U.S. charged Maduro with drug trafficking and what it described as narco-terrorism in March 2020. This was during Trump's first presidential term. The first Trump administration also offered a $15 million reward for information that could lead to Maduro's capture. When Maduro won the disputed Venezuelan elections in early January last year, America's outgoing Joe Biden administration raised the bounty on Maduro to $25 million. On August 7th last year, the second Trump administration further increased the bounty. They doubled it to $50 million. And Attorney General Pam Bondi accused Maduro of collaborating with other drug cartels like the Tren de Aragua and the Sinaloa cartel. The Trump administration had already designated those drug cartels as foreign terrorist groups. Finally, effective November 24th last year, the so-called Cartel of the Suns was also designated as a foreign terrorist organization. The U.S. also explicitly stated that Nicolas Maduro, the president of Venezuela, was the head of this terror group. Now it seems that Maduro's capture has paved the way for the U.S. to imprison him on terrorism and drug trafficking charges. Nicolas Maduro has served as the president of Venezuela since April 2013. He took over after the death of Venezuela's longtime leader, Hugo Chavez. Before rising to power, Maduro had reportedly worked as a bus driver and then a trade union leader. Just hours before getting captured by U.S. forces, Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro had met with a special representative of the Chinese government. The Venezuelan presidency had just released a video of Maduro of that meeting. The meeting took place in Caracas. Maduro is shown greeting the Chinese delegation on Latin American affairs, exchanging gifts and giving them a tour. Maduro had earlier released a pre-taped interview which aired on Venezuelan state TV on Thursday. He had said he was open to negotiations with Trump to combat drug trafficking in Venezuela.
Y el gobierno de Estados Unidos lo sabe.
The US government knows, because we've told many of their spokespeople, that if they want to seriously discuss an agreement to combat drug trafficking, we're ready. If they want oil, Venezuela is ready for US investment, like with Chevron, whenever they want it, wherever they want it, and however they want it.
Cuando quieran, donde quiera y como quieran, para que vean.
What I can tell you is that the national defense system, which combines popular, military and police forces, has guaranteed and continues to guarantee territorial integrity, peace in the country, and the use and enjoyment of all our territories, and our people are safe and at peace. I can give you a preview of something there.
The whereabouts of Maduro remain unknown, but now they've been outlined by the President of the United States. He was captured earlier in the day with his wife by the U.S. forces. Trump had put out on Truth Social that Maduro was captured and was being flown out of the country. Venezuela's Vice President Delcy Rodriguez says Venezuela demands proof of life of President Maduro. The big question now is, with Maduro captured, what happens next in Venezuela? Who will be in control? Right now, there are three important people in the Venezuelan government. That is the vice president, who has been sworn in as the current president. And according to Trump, there's a group that will take charge of Venezuela. China says it firmly opposes U.S. military strikes on Venezuela and the capture of President Nicolas Maduro, calling it a violation of international law. Beijing's foreign ministry said in a statement, and I quote, China is deeply shocked and strongly condemns the U.S.'s blatant use of force against a sovereign state and its action against its president. The statement further says such hegemonic behavior by the U.S. seriously violates international law, infringes upon Venezuela's sovereignty, and threatens peace and security in Latin America and the Caribbean. China firmly opposes it. China's foreign ministry had earlier advised Chinese citizens to avoid traveling to Venezuela for the time being due to what it said was prominently escalated security risks. The U.S. had sanctioned 4 Chinese shipping companies and their oil tankers in its latest strike against Venezuela's crude exports. Experts point out that despite close ties with Caracas, Beijing is wary of getting dragged into a distant conflict. China has extended tens of billions of dollars in loans to Venezuela over the years, repaid by Caracas largely through oil shipments. U.S. forces have since September launched strikes on boats, Washington said, without providing evidence. Traffic in drugs in the Caribbean Sea and Eastern Pacific Ocean. More than 100 people have been killed, some of them fishermen, according to their families and governments. The president of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, has reacted to the events in Venezuela. Von der Leyen says that the EU stands with the people of Venezuela, but that they support a peaceful and democratic transition. She added that any solution must respect international law and the United Nations Charter. The US action in Venezuela would not count as a peaceful nor a democratic transition. President Nicolas Maduro and his wife have been captured and flown out of the country. The leadership in Venezuela is in turmoil. Supporters of Maduro have taken to the streets of Caracas to protest. Von der Leyen's comment came even though the EU has not recognized Maduro as Venezuela's legitimate president. The bloc says that the 2024 election was not free nor fair, and they have always disputed Maduro's legitimacy. Despite this, von der Leyen says that the EU supports a peaceful and democratic transition. Is this the latest rift between the EU and the United States? Time will tell. And there you have it. Now it has been confirmed that Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro is in the United States. He will face justice in the United States, and America will run Venezuela. Thank you for watching WION The World is One.
From Avengers Doomsday to Ramayana Part 1, know all about the big budget releases of 2026.
It's your boy Flipperachi from Outlaw Productions.
Meet Bahraini rapper Flipperachi as he talks about fast love. And find out why India is emerging as the world's go-to concert hub. All this and much more with me, Diksha Bisla, on WION at these times.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening. As we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch. WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is one. Where darkness hides behind every corner. Where the truth is stranger than fiction. A show that dives deep into the stories which shock and mystify. Unsolved murders. Psychopaths who defy explanation. International war crimes. And millions swindled in financial fraud. The victims, the accused, and the sinister plot. Crime is your front row seat to darkness.
Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh. To some, it's an extreme ideology. To others, it's the very soul of India. To some, it's rebellion. To others, it's a principle of nation building. Coming soon to challenge perceptions in RS's centenary year, Kesariya at 100.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch. Where darkness hides behind every corner. Where the truth is stranger than fiction. A show that dives deep into the stories which shock and mystify. Unsolved murders. Psychopaths who defy explanation. International war crimes. And millions swindled in financial fraud. The victims, the accused, and the sinister plot. Crime is your front row seat to darkness. From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
Welcome back and thank you very much for staying with us. We are live on WION World as One. The deal has been done. You've heard from the US President Donald Trump. He says Nicolas Maduro has been deposed. He is in the United States. He will face justice in the United States together with his wife. American Joker, the headlines.
We're going to stay until such time as we're going to run it, essentially, until such time as a proper transition can take place.
President Donald Trump says that the US is going to run Venezuela. Washington is going to run the country at least until a proper transition can take place.
We're going to have our very large United States oil companies, the biggest anywhere in the world, go in
Trump says American oil companies will be going into Venezuela and investing in the oil infrastructure and extracting wealth. He says the wealth created will go to both Venezuelans and to the United States as a form of reimbursement for the earlier ouster of its oil farms. President Trump lauds the operation to capture Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. He hailed it as one of the most stunning displays of U.S. military might in American history. He added that no nation could have achieved what the U.S. achieved. Venezuela's captured President Nicolas Maduro is being taken to New York City in the U.S., where he will face trial over charges of narco-terrorism. Maduro was indicted in New York back in 2020. Russia's foreign ministry condemns what it called a U.S. act of armed aggression against Venezuela. In a statement, it says that Moscow strongly urges the United States to release Nicolas Maduro, captured by American forces. Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei warns of no quarter for rioters, even as he acknowledges the economic demands of protesters, whose demonstrations have spread to more than 24 cities. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky hails peace plan discussions with the security advisors from the EU, Canada and NATO. Zelensky says more meetings will be held in Europe next week, and Ukraine is also preparing for more peace talks with the United States. President Donald Trump has just addressed a press conference about the capture of Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. Trump has detailed the operation that led to Maduro's capture and spoke about what happens to Venezuela next. Trump says that the United States is going to run Venezuela. Washington is going to run the country at least until a proper transition can take place. Trump did not provide a timeline. He did not elaborate on what a proper transition means. Trump also spoke about American oil companies and their plans for Venezuela. He said that American oil firms will be going into Venezuela and investing in the oil infrastructure. Trump also added, and I quote, "We are going to make people of Venezuela rich and safe." Trump began his speech by lauding the operation that led to Maduro's capture. He said that not a single American service member was killed and not one piece of U.S. military equipment was lost during the capture of Maduro and his wife. Trump hailed it as one of the most stunning displays of U.S. military might in American history. He said it was an assault that the planet had not seen since the Second World War. And Trump also added that no nation could have achieved what the United States achieved. The American president said that it was the United States that had caused a massive blackout in Venezuela leading up to Maduro's capture. He said that American forces had planned a second wave of attacks in case they were required. But Trump added that considering Maduro's capture, a second wave doesn't seem necessary anymore. Details have also emerged about how Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro was struck down by the U.S. Reports say that a source inside the Venezuelan government helped America's Central Intelligence Agency track Maduro. A report in the New York Times says that the CIA cultivated a source in the Maduro administration. This source helped the Americans track Maduro's location even up until moments before his capture. Former CIA officials say that the $50 million bounty that the U.S. put on Maduro may have helped the CIA cultivate the source, the U.S. has had a bounty on Maduro since 2020, but in August 2025, the U.S. increased the size of the bounty to $50 million. The CIA also reportedly used a fleet of stealth drones to monitor Maduro. In November, President Trump had empowered the CIA to prepare operations in Venezuela. Trump had also given the CIA permission to take aggressive action. But Maduro's capture was undertaken by the U.S. military, not the CIA. The CIA provided the intelligence, but Maduro and his wife were captured by the U.S. military's Special Operation Forces. The situation remains quite tense and fluid between the United States and Venezuela. As we track all the developments, the question is, for how long had the United States been planning this move against Venezuela? But what is clear is that the Trump administration had been laying the groundwork for this moment for a long time. Let's take a look at all the strikes conducted by America on Venezuela to date. The United States has carried out more than 30 strikes on vessels to date. The escalation began with a U.S. strike on a Venezuelan boat on September 2nd in international waters. The first strike killed at least 11 people. Trump claimed that the individuals were members of Tren de Aragua, a gang the Trump administration has designated as a terrorist organization. The tempo increased quickly. On September 15th last year, just as Venezuela was still absorbing the impact of the initial attack, Trump announced another U.S. strike. That attack killed 3 people who Trump described as extraordinarily violent drug trafficking cartels and narco-terrorists. The third attack followed a few days later in the Caribbean Sea on September 19th last year, days after the Dominican Republic said it had recovered cocaine from a boat recently destroyed in a U.S. airstrike. But it did not specify when the strike happened. On October 3rd last year, U.S. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth announced a U.S. military strike killed 4 men on a boat in international waters near Venezuela. From last October 14th onwards, the U.S. campaign rapidly expanded in pace, geography, and intensity. Just days later, on October 16th last year, American forces struck a suspected semi-submersible drug vessel, killing 2 people and briefly detaining survivors. This marked the first time the U.S. held prisoners during what President Trump had framed as a military campaign. On last October 17th, another strike killed 3 people on a boat, and by October 21st and 22nd of last year, the operation widened beyond the Caribbean into the Eastern Pacific. The multiple strikes killing at least 5 more people in less than 24 hours. The tempo continued to rise through late October, including a deadly October 27th series of strikes that killed 15 people in a single day. Through November last year, the Trump administration pressed ahead almost daily, announcing repeated strikes in both the Caribbean and Eastern Pacific. The deployment of the aircraft carrier USS Gerald Ford and thousands of additional U.S. troops signaled the scale of the buildup. By December last year, despite mounting scrutiny from U.S. lawmakers and regional governments, the strikes continued unabated. Repeated strikes were conducted on vessels which Washington claimed were linked to designated terrorist organizations and drug trafficking routes. The last strike that America conducted before these latest explosions in Caracas was on New Year's Eve. On December 31st, Pete Hegseth announced the attack on 2 vessels in the Caribbean. The continuous strikes on the vessels have killed more than 100 people so far. The Trump administration now says it has captured Nicolas Maduro. This has cemented what has become a sustained and unprecedented U.S. military campaign across Latin American waters. The United States reportedly used and deployed its most elite force in what Washington describes as an operation to capture Maduro. Explosions were heard in Caracas and in surrounding areas, suggesting strikes on key targets as part of the mission. Reports say American Delta Force operators then flew Maduro out of the country. According to reports, U.S. recently deployed 2 Army Delta Force units, one from West Asia and the other from North Africa. These teams had established a pattern of life on Maduro ahead of the operation, mapping his locations and daily movements. Delta Force, formerly known as the 1st Special Forces Operational Detachment, Delta, was established in 1977. It operates under the U.S. Army Special Operations Command and reports to the Joint Special Operations Command. The unit is divided into 4 main squadrons, each containing several troops. Delta Force specializes in high-risk, high-value missions such as counterterrorism, hostage rescue capture, or elimination of threats, and special reconnaissance. Straightforward on that answer.
We're going to run the country until such time as we can do a safe, proper, and judicious transition. So we don't want to be involved with having somebody else get in and we have the same situation that we had for the last long period of years. So we are going to run the country until such time as we can do a safe, proper, and judicious transition. And it has to be judicious because that's what we're all about.
Trump was later asked about what happens to Venezuela's opposition, like the 2025 Nobel Peace Prize winner Maria Corina Machado. Machado had earlier declared that the operation meant that the hour of freedom had arrived, but that freedom would be administered from Washington. Trump brushed aside a question about Machado taking over Venezuela. He said, and I quote, "I think it would be very tough for her to be the leader. She doesn't have the support within or the respect within the country. She's a very nice woman, but she doesn't have the respect." Let's move on to other news of the day. Europe's top security brains have landed in Kiev and the diplomatic clock is ticking as national security advisors from several European countries arrived in the Ukrainian capital for high-level talks. The war entered a critical political and military phase, both on the battlefield and inside Ukraine's power corridors. President Volodymyr Zelensky has announced a major cabinet reshuffle, signaling preparation for a long and complex endgame. In a significant move, Zelensky has proposed shifting his current defense minister, Denis Shmyhal, to the strategic energy portfolio at a time when Russian strikes continue to target Ukraine's power grid. The move comes just a day after Zelensky said he intends to replace Shmyhal as prime minister with the current digital transformation minister, underscoring a widening wartime reset at the top of Ukraine's leadership. All of this is unfolding as Kiev hosts a series of January talks, part of US-mediated efforts to test the possibility of a negotiated settlement to the nearly 4-year-long Russia-Ukraine war. Zelensky has put out a statement saying that first results of today's work with advisors on national security issues from partner states, European partners, Canada, the EU and NATO, and we are also talking with the American side. Thank you for all your support. Zelensky posted an update on the meeting on his X handle. He said European partners, Canada, the EU and NATO are engaged and we are also communicating with the American side. I'm grateful to everyone for their support. Our discussions are moving forward along 3 key directions: security guarantees, reconstruction and a basic framework of a real rebuilding. Work with the advisors continues. We are preparing meetings in Europe next week. We are also getting ready for meetings in the United States. On the ground, however, the war shows no signs of pausing. Moscow claims its forces have carried out multiple high-precision strikes over the past week, targeting Ukraine's defense, energy and transport infrastructure, while also advancing in parts of Donetsk, Zaporizhia and Kharkiv. Ukraine paints a different picture. Kiev says nearly 100 battles were fought along the front lines on Thursday. with Ukrainian forces repelling Russian offensives and striking back using missiles, artillery, and air power. Iran's supreme leader has finally spoken after days of silence as protests over a collapsing economy continue to roil the Islamic Republic. In a rare public acknowledgement, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei on Saturday said that the economic demands of Iranian protesters are, quote, completely fair.
We talk to the protesters. They should talk. The authorities should talk to the protesters. But there is no point in talking to the rioters. The rioters should be put in their place. It is absolutely unacceptable for some people to come under various titles and names with the intention of destroying and harming the country, to stand behind the faithful, healthy, and revolutionary marketers, to abuse their protests, and create unrest. We must understand the enemy's work. The enemy does not sit still. It uses every opportunity. Seeing an opportunity here, they tried to use it. Of course, our officials were and will be in the field.
The remarks come after nearly a week of protests and mark Khamenei's first known reaction since demonstrations erupted over Iran's plunging currency and deepening cost of living crises. Violence has shadowed the protests. Iranian authorities say 2 more people were killed on Saturday, taking the death toll to at least 10 as unrest shows no signs of slowing. The protests, now entering their second week, have spread to more than 100 locations across 22 of Iran's 31 provinces, according to the ISW-CTP. Protests took place in 17 out of Iran's 31 provinces between December 28th and 31st, and have since spread to 5 additional provinces. The civilian government led by President Masoud Pezeshkian has tried to signal dialogue, but has openly admitted its power is limited under sanctions and systemic pressure. Internationally, pressure is building. President Trump has warned Tehran against using lethal force, saying the United States would come to the rescue if peaceful protests and protesters are violently killed. Comments that drew sharp warnings from Iranian officials, including threats against U.S. troops in the region. All of this comes against the backdrop of Iran's June war with Israel and near strikes on Iranian nuclear sites, a war that has further strained an already fragile economy. The smart glasses developed by Meta have become quite popular since their launch, but it's the glasses' video recording capability that has raised serious questions about privacy and women's safety. Experts warn that the glasses risk turning everyday spaces into sites of covert surveillance. Now, according to Essilor-Luxottica, the French company that makes the Meta glasses, over 2 million pairs have been sold since 2023. The glasses allow users to record video through a camera built into the frame, while a small LED light is meant to signal when recording is on. Online tutorials and accessories show how that light can be disabled or covered. There have been news reports of women being recorded without their consent, with the videos being posted online, again without their consent. Experts say the technology could lower the barrier for harassment and stalking. There's a bigger fear as well. With AI being used to sexualize images of minors and women, the glasses can be used to capture pictures covertly. Privacy concerns around smart glasses are not new. Google Glass, the tech giant's first attempt a decade ago, collapsed amid a privacy backlash. Meta insists its glasses are designed with safeguards and has expanded its line to include glasses with inbuilt displays that support video calls. Mark Zuckerberg has said he believes smart glasses will replace mobile phones. Google Glass, the tech giant's first attempt a decade ago, collapsed. And finally, a cosmic intruder pierces our solar system. It was the biggest headline in astronomy. 3I Atlas Rogue Wanderer or Alien Probe. Astronomers are scrambling. Telescopes are locked on, unveiling secrets that could rewrite the stars. It has zoomed past Earth last December, leaving more questions than answers. Thank you for watching.
There could be trillions of such objects in the cosmos. Icy fragments ejected from distant planetary systems, drifting for millions of years through the galactic void. Most will never encounter another star. Some, by sheer cosmic chance, pass through our solar system. 3I Atlas is only the third that we've ever detected. When 3I Atlas first blinked onto our screens, astronomers didn't see a comet. They saw a miracle. It moved with a disturbing grace, lacking the chaotic tail of ice and dust that defines a cosmic visitor. It was an anomaly of the highest order. Within hours, the global scientific community was in a state of frantic mobilization. The world's biggest telescope turned as one. From the high-altitude deserts of Chile to the orbiting Hubble Space Telescope, every lens in existence zoomed in on the speck of light. Even our lonely scouts orbiting Mars were commanded to pivot, capturing data on a scale never before seen in human history. The fascination quickly spiraled into suspicion. The data returned was haunting. 3I Atlas exhibited non-gravitational acceleration, a subtle, terrifying kick as it rounded the sun. As if it was steering. Was it a light sail, a dormant probe, or a derelict scout from a civilization that vanished 1 billion years ago? Three-Eye Atlas's shape was wrong, the speed was impossible, and the silence was deafening. Space infrastructure were redirected for a glimpse of what many now believe is not a rock, but a craft. 3I Atlas continues its lonely journey outbound from our sun, speed gradually decreasing as solar gravity releases its grip. When it finally exits our solar system, it will travel at the same velocity it entered, back into the eternal void between stars. Another wandering fragment in a galaxy containing trillions like it.
From Avengers Doomsday to Ramayana Part 1, know all about the big budget releases of 2026.
It's your boy Flipperachi from Outlaw Productions.
Meet Bahraini rapper Flipperachi as he talks about fast love. And find out why India is emerging as the world's go-to concert hub. All this and much more with me, Diksha Bisla, on WION at these times.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch. WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide, because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION, World is One.
Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh. To some, it's an extreme ideology. To others, it's the very soul of India. To some, it's rebellion. To others, it's a principle of nation building. Coming soon to challenge perceptions in RS's centenary year, Kesariya at 100.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
Above our heads, a new arms race is unfolding in silence. Satellites stalk satellites. Lasers replace missiles. The moon becomes strategic ground. The question now is simple. Will 2026 see the first shots of a space war? In orbit, satellites no longer just observe. They maneuver, they chase, they shadow rivals in what military planners call satellite dogfights. These encounters are silent, invisible to civilians, but charged with consequence. One wrong move at 28,000 km/h could blind an entire nation. The United States, China, and Russia are racing ahead, treating space not as a shared frontier, but as contested territory. Washington is building what a golden dome, a next-generation missile defense shield using space-based sensors, interceptors, and lasers. The goal is total protection, hypersonic missiles tracked from launch to impact, threats neutralized above the atmosphere. China is also making rapid strides. Its military satellites now rival the US in number and sophistication. Some can jam signals, others can grab, nudge, or disable rival spacecraft. Russia is experimenting with electronic warfare in space and reviving Cold War concepts of orbital deterrence. Moscow sees space as the ultimate equalizer, cheaper than matching conventional firepower on Earth. The conflicts are now entering a higher realm. The moon is no longer about flags and footprints, it is about power. After China and Russia, Trump also wants to put a nuclear reactor on the moon. Nuclear reactors promise constant energy during the long lunar night. Whoever controls that power controls navigation, surveillance, and deep space logistics. Put it all together, and 2026 looks less like a Hollywood Star Wars scenario and more like a cold, calculated shadow war above the atmosphere. Dogfighting satellites, laser weapons, cyber attacks on ground stations, jamming of navigation signals, tools designed to cripple everything from banking to battlefield command. Will 2026 witness an open space war? The odds still favor deterrence, too much to lose, too much infrastructure at risk, but the more weapons and reactors we push into the dark, the thinner the line becomes between a contested domain and a shooting war in the final frontier.
There could be trillions of such objects in the cosmos. Icy fragments ejected from distant planetary systems, drifting for millions of years through the galactic void. Most will never encounter another star. Some, by sheer cosmic chance, pass through our solar system. 3I Atlas is only the third that we've ever detected. When 3I Atlas first blinked onto our screens, astronomers didn't see a comet. They saw a miracle. It moved with a disturbing grace, lacking the chaotic tail of ice and dust that defines a cosmic visitor. It was an anomaly of the highest order. Within hours, the global scientific community was in a state of frantic mobilization. The world's biggest telescope turned as one. From the high-altitude deserts of Chile to the orbiting Hubble Space Telescope, every lens in existence zoomed in on the speck of light. Even our lonely scouts orbiting Mars were commanded to pivot, capturing data on a scale never before seen in human history. The fascination quickly spiraled into suspicion. The data returned was haunting. 3I Atlas exhibited non-gravitational acceleration, a subtle, terrifying kick as it rounded the sun. As if it was steering. Was it a light sail, a dormant probe, or a derelict scout from a civilization that vanished 1 billion years ago? "3I Atlas's shape was wrong, the speed was impossible, and the silence was deafening." Space infrastructure were redirected for a glimpse of what many now believe is not a rock, but a craft. 3I Atlas continues its lonely journey outbound from our sun, speed gradually decreasing as solar gravity releases its grip. When it finally exits our solar system, it will travel at the same velocity it entered, back into the eternal void between stars. Another wandering fragment in a galaxy containing trillions like it.
It's the oldest question of them all. Are we alone in the universe? A cosmos so vast, so ancient, that to think we're the only ones may be the greatest assumption in human history. And in 2025, that question came roaring back, powered by sightings, science, and a new hunger for truth. Look up on a clear night. Every speck of light you see is a star, many with planets, many with moons. The silence of the cosmos is deafening, yet increasingly it feels like a prelude. Astronomers now estimate at least 400 billion stars in our Milky Way alone. Stretch that across 2 trillion galaxies and you get a universe buzzing with possibilities. If even a fraction of those stars host planets, and recent exoplanet discoveries suggest billions of Earth-like worlds exist, the statistical probability of life elsewhere becomes not just plausible, but almost inevitable. For decades, the search was quiet. Methodical radio telescopes listened. Astronomers counted exoplanets. Biologists studied extreme life forms thriving where life should not survive. Then Keaton refuses to die. Are we early? Are we late? Or are we simply not looking the right way? In 2025, humanity did not find aliens. What it found was something equally unsettling. The growing sense that we may not be as alone or as central as we once believed.
The vast expanse of darkness, a shimmering streak of glory. India's booming space ambitions have found a hero. Astronaut Shubhanshu Shukla created history to become the first Indian at the International Space Station. Shukla's feat, as part of the Axiom 4 mission in 2025, has headlined a milestone year for Indian space efforts. India would be launching its first manned space flight in 2027. With a team comprising Prashant Balakrishnan Nair, Ajit Krishnan and Angad Pratap, Shukla will helm the Gaganyaan, India's maiden space flight mission planned for 2027. Through Gaganyaan, India aims to send the crew to an orbit of 400 kilometers on a 3-day mission. A successful voyage will put India in an elite club, making it only the 4th country to send a human into space after Russia, the US and China. As part of 8,000 tests and experiments for the Gaganyaan mission, the Indian Space Agency has completed the testing of crew module drogue parachutes. It intends to carry out 3 uncrewed missions in 2026 before launching a crewed mission the year after. Buoyed by milestones such as the Chandrayaan-3, the ISRO's efforts have acquired greater momentum.
3, 2, 1, 0.
On December 24th, ISRO's powerful LVM-3 rocket lifted off flawlessly, carrying its heaviest satellite yet. Bluebird Block 2 weighs 6,100 kilograms, making it the largest ever commercial communications satellite to be deployed in low Earth orbit. The Bahubali rocket is capable of lifting 9,200 kgs.
Close to 6,000 kg we have lifted, and this rocket, this mission, we have also brought some new developments for enhancing the payload capability, something around 150 to 200 kg payload capability. And for accomplishing the Gaganyaan mission, we have to have a capability close to more than 9,000 kg.
The SpaceX mission in January 2025 not only successfully demonstrated satellite docking, but also marked an important step for space station assembly and servicing. The Indian Space Agency also actively collaborates with private players in the country through tech transfers and facility access. The government's in-space program, a single window system, enables the partnership of private firms across missions, notably Gaganyaan. Even as India's space budget has substantially increased over the last decade, from around Rs 5,600 crores to Rs 13,416 crores, the industry still believes that more could be done. India's ambitions of setting up its own space station, the Bharatiya Antariksh Station by 2035, and a crewed moon mission 5 years thereafter, mark the country's next big foray. India's ingenuity in achieving new breakthroughs means that its imprint in space is likely to get bigger and bolder.
Beyond the yonder, amidst the infinite darkness, space exploration is entering an exciting new era. A remarkable lineup of missions is meant to deepen our understanding of the Moon, Mars, and beyond. At the center of this new push is the United States. It is reviving a dream last realized around half a century ago. The NASA-led moon mission Artemis II is planning its first crewed mission to test spacecraft systems in lunar orbit. 4 astronauts will orbit the moon aboard the Orion spacecraft in early 2026. The US has slingshot a pair of robotic spacecraft to Mars in November 2025. The Escapade mission explores how solar radiation strips away the tattered Martian atmosphere. The US is not alone. There are many other countries which have ambitious space launches lined up for 2026. China is unraveling the mysteries of the moon. It has made a groundbreaking discovery of the moon's two-phase temperature through its Chang'e 6 mission. Rock samples from the mission reveal that the moon's far side may not just be visually different, but also colder than its near side. The findings are expected to shed light into the moon's age and its volcanic history. China's efforts paved the way for another potential mission. While lunar samples have helped unlock solar system secrets, Martian samples could offer exciting insights into the greatest mystery: life on Mars. India is making its own foray. The country is inching towards its long-standing dream of launching crewed moon missions. In 2025, Shubhanshu Shukla became the first Indian astronaut to visit the International Space Station as part of the Axiom 4 mission.
And there they all are, waving.
It is a precursor to India's upcoming Gaganyaan human spaceflight mission in 2027 and its ambitious crewed moon mission by 2040. Following the success of Chandrayaan-3, India's landing mission on the lunar South Pole, Chandrayaan-4, is in the pipeline. By 2028, it aims to collect lunar soil from Moon's South Pole, a region believed to contain water ice. India is looking beyond the Moon. It is preparing for its first soft landing on Mars by 2030. Other countries are not falling behind either. The European Space Agency plans ExoMars rover mission to search for life on Mars by 2028. Japan aims to survey Mars moons Phobos and Deimos in 2026. Private players are making rapid strides in deep space exploration. Billionaire Elon Musk's SpaceX and Jeff Bezos' Blue Origin are racing to put humans back on the moon for the first time in 50 years. Both are building lunar landers. Musk wants to move up plans for a Mars voyage. The SpaceX chief, who has been vocal about establishing a human colony on Mars, wants to send humans to the Red Planet as early as 2029.
From Earth, space looks silent. Empty and infinite. But just beyond the skies we breathe, space is anything but peaceful. Our quest for space dominance has littered the Earth's orbit, and this is getting more dangerous by the day. Orbiting our planet are over 100 million pieces of debris, remnants of ambition, exploration, and conflict. Broken satellites, shattered rocket stages, nuts, bolts, and even peeled off paint flags. Space junk like this hurtles around our planet at terrifying speeds. More than 23,000 known man-made fragments are larger than about 10 centimeters. But there are millions of tiny pieces, which are less than a centimeter. They are hard to track. But more than their size, it's their velocity which makes them akin to flying missiles. Over the last 6 decades, more than 6,740 rockets have been launched into space, generating over 56,000 pieces of orbital debris. While many objects burn up in the atmosphere, a significant number survive re-entry, with some even falling into airspace used by commercial flights. Most of the debris sits within 2,000 kilometers of the Earth's surface in what is known as low Earth orbit. It's home to several satellites. It's used for the International Space Station and China's space station, the very area where India is planning its own permanent abode in space. Houston, we have a problem. A tiny bolt hurtling at breathtaking speed can puncture a satellite. A larger fragment can destroy it completely. Back in 2009, a retired Russian satellite, the Cosmos 2251, and an active US-based communication satellite, the Iridium 33, collided at 36,000 kilometers per hour, bursting into a cloud of thousands of pieces of debris. In November 2025, China's Tiangong space station, orbiting at over 27,000 kilometers per hour, sustained a direct hit from a speeding bullet of space debris. 3 Chinese astronauts, already 6 months into their mission, were stranded in orbit and made a risky return to Earth only after a delay of several days. Almost 40% of the space junk belongs to the US. About 28% belongs to Russia and the former USSR, and another 19% belongs to China. In contrast, India has contributed a mere 0.8% of the global space debris. Countries are now racing for solutions to whittle down the cloud of space debris. Robotic arms, nets, harpoons, lasers, and new rules for responsible launches. A cluttered orbit is not just a danger to our satellites, but threatens life on Earth.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh. To some, it's an extreme ideology. To others, it's the very soul of India. To some, it's rebellion. To others, it's a principle of nation building, coming soon to challenge perceptions in RS's centenary year, Kesariya at 100.
WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide, because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION, World is One.
Where darkness hides behind every corner. Where the truth is stranger than fiction. A show that dives deep into the stories which shock and mystify. Unsolved murders. Psychopaths who defy explanation. International war crimes. And millions swindled in financial fraud. The victims, the accused, and the sinister plot. Crime is your front row seat to darkness.
From Avengers Doomsday to Ramayana Part 1, know all about the big budget releases of 2026.
It's your boy Flipperachi from Outlaw Productions.
Meet Bahraini rapper Flipperachi as he talks about fast love. And find out why India is emerging as the world's go-to concert hub. All this and much more with me, Diksha Bisla, on WION at these times.
Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh. To some, it's an extreme ideology. To others, it's the very soul of India. To some, it's rebellion. To others, it's a principle of nation building, coming soon to challenge perceptions in RS's centenary year, Kesariya at 100.
WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is one.
Where darkness hides behind every corner. Where the truth is stranger than fiction. A show that dives deep into the stories which shock and mystify. Unsolved murders. Psychopaths who defy explanation. International war crimes. And millions swindled in financial fraud. The victims, the accused, and the sinister plot. Crime is your front row seat to darkness.
WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is one.
Welcome back and thank you very much for staying with us. We are live on WION World as One. The deal has been done. You've heard from the US President Donald Trump. He says Nicolas Maduro has been deposed. He is in the United States. He will face justice in the United States together with his wife. American Joker, the headlines.
We're going to stay until such time as we're going to run it, essentially, until such time as a proper transition can take place.
President Donald Trump says that the US is going to run Venezuela. Washington is going to run the country at least until a proper transition can take place.
We're going to have our very large United States oil companies, the biggest anywhere in the world, go in.
Trump says American oil companies will be going into Venezuela and investing in the oil infrastructure and extracting wealth. He says the wealth created will go to both Venezuelans and to the United States as a form of reimbursement for the earlier ouster of its oil farms. President Trump lauds the operation to capture Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. He hailed it as one of the most stunning displays of US military might in American history. He added that no nation could have achieved what the US achieved. Venezuela's captured President Nicolas Maduro is being taken to New York City in the US, where he will face trial over charges of narco-terrorism. Maduro was indicted in New York back in 2020. Russia's foreign ministry condemns what it called a US act of armed aggression against Venezuela. In a statement, it says that Moscow strongly urges the United States to release Nicolas Maduro, captured by American forces. Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei warns of no quarter for rioters, even as he acknowledges the economic demands of protesters whose demonstrations have spread to more than 24 cities. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky hails peace plan discussions with the security advisors from the EU, Canada and NATO. Zelensky says more meetings will be held in Europe next week, and Ukraine is also preparing for more peace talks with the United States. US President Donald Trump just gave a press conference about the capture of Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. Trump detailed the operation that led to Maduro's capture and spoke about what happens to Venezuela next. Trump says that the US is going to run Venezuela. Washington is going to run the country at least until a proper transition can take place. Trump did not provide a timeline. He did not elaborate on what a proper transition really means.
We're going to run the country until such time as we can do a safe, proper, and judicious transition. So we don't want to be involved with having somebody else get in and we have the same situation that we had for the last long period of years. So we are going to run the country until such time as we can do a safe, proper, and judicious transition. And it has to be judicious because that's what we're all about.
Trump also spoke about American oil companies and their plans for Venezuela. He said that American oil firms will be going into Venezuela and investing in the oil infrastructure. And Trump also added, and I quote, "We are going to make people of Venezuela rich and safe." Secretary of War Hegseth also reiterated that the United States will bring back the stolen oil.
Deadly serious about stopping the flow of drugs and poison to our people, deadly serious about getting back the oil that was stolen from us, and deadly serious about reestablishing American deterrence and dominance in the Western Hemisphere.
Trump began his speech by lauding the operation that led to Maduro's capture. He said that not a single American service member was killed and not one piece of U.S. military equipment was lost during the capture of Maduro and his wife. U.S. General, Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Dan Kane, said the operation took months of planning.
This was an audacious operation that only the United States could do. It required the utmost of precision and integration within our joint force. And the word integration does not explain the sheer complexity of such a mission. An extraction so precise it involved more than 150 aircraft launching across the Western Hemisphere in close coordination, all coming together in time and place to layer effects for a single purpose, to get an interdiction force into downtown Caracas while maintaining the element of tactical surprise.
Trump hailed it as one of the most stunning displays of U.S. military might in American history. He said it was an assault that the planet had not seen since the Second World War, and Trump said that no nation could have achieved what the U.S. achieved. The American president said that it was the U.S. that had caused a massive blackout in Venezuela leading up to Maduro's capture. He said that American forces had planned a second wave of attacks in the case, or in any case, they were required. But Trump added that considering Maduro's capture, a second wave doesn't seem necessary anymore. Details have also emerged about how Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro was struck down by the U.S. Reports say that a source inside the Venezuelan government helped America's Central Intelligence Agency track Maduro. A report in the New York Times says that the CIA cultivated a source in the Maduro administration. This source helped the Americans track Maduro's location even up until moments before his capture. Former CIA officials say that the $50 million bounty that the U.S. put on Maduro may have helped the CIA cultivate the source. The U.S. has had a bounty on Maduro since 2020, but in August 2025, the U.S. increased the size of the bounty to $50 million. The CIA also reportedly used a fleet of stealth drones to monitor Maduro. In November, President Trump had empowered the CIA to prepare operations in Venezuela. Trump had also given the CIA permission to take aggressive action. But Maduro's capture was undertaken by the U.S. military, not the CIA. The CIA provided the intelligence, but Maduro and his wife were captured by the U.S. military's Special Operation Forces. The situation remains quite tense and fluid between the United States and Venezuela. As we track all the developments, the question is, for how long have the United States been planning this move against Venezuela? But what is clear